Hi everybody, I'm Bob Zimmerino and welcome back to Taste It Missoula. This is my co-host,
Emily Sykes,
from the Good Food Store. We're going to do a series on rice dishes, and we're going to start with some different types of rice. Emily's got a couple of types of rice cooking. What do you got cooking over there?
well, I just finished the white basmati rice, and as you can see, it's already cooked. Cooked it with 1 cup basmati rice for 2 cups cold water.
Okay.
And just a little side note on what to do. You want to make sure that you rinse your basmati rice because it's covered with starch. And once you get that starch washed off with cold running water, then you can bring your 2 cups of water to a boil, add your 1 cup of rice, cover it for 20 minutes. You don't even need a rice cooker because 20 minutes you can do.
20 minutes is about right, yeah.
And then you turn it off.
Did you use your timer?
I did because even if it's 5 minutes, I do my timer.
Okay.
Because your phone could ring, someone could call you or whatever.
It's true.
And
but then I'd be confused between the phone ring and the timer, and I wouldn't know which to answer.
Focus, Bob.
I'll focus. All right, I'm focused.
So we're focusing on the rice. Well, after the 20 minutes, you turn the heat off, you fluff the rice. And what I like to do is I like to allow the rice a little bit more time to steam because I want it to be even fluffier.
But the heat is all the way off now.
Heat's all the way off.
And it's just going to steam up a little bit.
And as you can see, I think it looks pretty good.
Yes, it does. It actually looks slightly sticky, and we'll talk about that in a little bit too.
It does look a little sticky.
And this side we have some brown rice cooking. And the biggest difference with the brown rice is basically time and the amount of water.
True.
We added an extra 1/4 cup of water.
So 2 1/4 cups of water
Exactly.
added.
And the reason for that is because brown rice is hulled but not milled, and the end result of that is that it does take a little bit more water to soak into the rice. It's also going to be a little bit nuttier in flavor and a slightly crunchier texture.
And it's better for you, right?
It is way better for you, and that's what we're going to talk about
Okay.
here. There are cheaper rices, like
Sure.
the, what do they call that stuff, the pre-cooked, it takes a minute to cook.
Right.
And those are terrible rices to eat. They're very starchy and they're not very good. But a long grain white rice, basically, rice is this color. Rice is a seed, by the way. Rice is this color naturally. Once it's hulled, it's actually browner than this. Once it's hulled, it comes to this look, this nice brown color. But all the nutrients get taken out of it when you continue and mill it. They use a faster roller and a slower roller process. The slower roller actually removes all of the color from the rice, but it also takes all the nutrients with it.
Yeah.
And that's never a good thing. All the rice bran is taken from it, and it becomes nutrient free. Oddly enough, they did this with rice back in the 20s and 30s, and then by the 40s they realized people were getting ill because they weren't getting the nutrients from their...
Exactly.
Everything was white at that time. Wonder bread, white bread, all that kind of
We
stuff.
don't even go to political aspects of that
Well,
either, right?
we don't want to get into the political aspects, but the end result was they ended up pumping 4 nutrients back into these dishes when they took out everything that was nutritional about them.
And you don't need to take anything out if you just look for long grain brown rice, or you could do short grain brown rice too.
That's true. Short
Okay.
grain brown rices. Well, we'll get into long and short in a
Sure.
minute. There are some medium grain rices. Valencia is a medium grain rice. It's used in paella, but for the most part, most medium grain rices are just a cross between obviously the short and the long. Some of them have a little bit more starch, and that is the difference. We're going to go to these back 3 rices. These are kind of boutique rices, so to speak.
Bob, what do you mean by boutique rice?
Well, for years and years, pretty much in this country anyways, all the rice that we ate was either white rice or brown rice. The last few years, as cooks have gotten a little bit more adventurous, and let's face it, shows like the Food Network and their shows, plus even stuff like you're seeing on the internet,
Sure.
people have gotten a little bit more adventurous in their cooking styles, and so they started using some different rices. White basmati rice is one of the more common of what are sometimes referred to as the boutique rices. It's just a great long grain rice. It is slightly starchy in flavor, but not nearly as starchy as the jasmine rice. Jasmine rice is the only long grain rice that comes close to being a sticky rice. Now in the short grain rices, you have arborio rice, you have the sushi rice.
Right.
They sometimes refer to it as sweet or sticky rice.
Correct, yeah.
The short grain rice and the long grain rice, we're going to show a little difference between the two really close up here. The short grain rice, if you notice, is a little plumper and not as long as the long grain. The plumpness in that rice is because there is more starch in this rice, and the method of cooking it to extract those starches and create more of a creamy texture to your dishes is to go a little bit slower when you're doing it. So when you do this arborio rice, we're going to add some stock.
Right, and when you use arborio rice whenever you make risottos, you've probably heard of that, maybe even more so than you've heard of arborio rice.
Right.
And so you're going to be using usually a stock, sometimes either chicken or vegetable that you slowly add in increments as you're stirring. And we'll show you how to do that.
Yeah, you do a little bit of add the stock a little bit at a time, and it brings that creaminess out in the rice, and that's the starches from here. This short grain rice, as most short grain rices, the outside of the rice is more accepting of water than a long grain rice, and that is why it does that. We're going to go on, we're going to talk a little bit more about what Em's got going over here. By the way, the brown rice does take a little bit longer to cook. The reason is, again, you've got that hull is gone, but you still have it hasn't been milled, and so you have that next layer where all the nutrients are, and it has to cook into the dish. It will be a little bit nuttier in flavor. Once you get used to eating brown rice, it's really hard to go back to white rice unless it's like a sweet sticky or something like that.
You can do brown rice for sushi. There's lots of ways to integrate brown rice into some dishes that you would traditionally think of using a white rice, but there's a lot of variety that you can use. So Bob, I got a question for you.
Ask.
Why do people throw rice at weddings?
I imagine because they feel like both the bride and the groom should be blinded at some point.
Really?
No.
That's so sad, Bob. It's actually because in India that rice is such a sacred food. And there's this idea that if you throw rice, it's welcoming fertility and prosperity. Because if you have a lot of rice throughout a lot of other cultures, it's such a staple.
Very good.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll ask you a question. Here's one back.
All right.
What's the most popular grain in the world?
I'm going to go with jasmine rice because of population.
No, I mean...
Oh, you mean like...
Overall.
Overall. Ooh. I don't know. I'm stumped. Corn.
Corn. But
oh, that's right, because it's a maize.
That's right.
That's right. Corn
but rice
is
is second. Rice is second.
Right.
And it's eaten the world around. Oddly enough, American consumption of rice, we rate 15th in the world for consumption of rice. Next time, we're going to do a cashew chicken that'll knock your socks off. We're going to use...
my basmati rice.
Very good. My name's Bob Zamorino. I'd like to thank you for MakeItMissoula.com.
And I'm Emily Seitz from the Good Food Store.